I used to take a lot of coaching as the CEO to learn how to speak better, to learn how to be more precise, to learn how to be more acceptance of some things. But there is one thing that I always found out, that is like, yes, as much as I am improving, I am limited by my own ability to improve. So I actually have to hire people that can vibe with me and go the same way that I want to go. Otherwise, it shows my weaknesses instead of just helping my weaknesses.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ben and Bergs podcast. I'm Ben, your favorite high school dropout and founder of Collective Shift. Alongside me is Bergs, your favorite MBA and COO of Collective Shift. Join us as we bring you world-class crypto research and strategies to help you dominate this crypto bull market, as well as behind-the-scenes view of us scaling a fully remote subscription research business in Australia. And if you like the podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube, it's how we grow the podcast each and every week. Now, today we have an epic guest on the show, JMR Luna. He's the former CEO of OG Esports. If you're an esports fan, you would have heard of that. If you're not an esports fan, they are the leading esports organization known for its success in games like Dota 2. Under his leadership, he pioneered the integration of blockchain technology in esports, launching innovative NFTs and fan tokens. And then he spent 1 year with Wintermute, one of the leading or industry-leading crypto market makers in the space. And Jay and I met in Korea a couple of weeks ago at an event, and then we ended up going out and getting Korean barbecue together and had a great time. And he's finally back and available in Bangkok, and I thought it'd be an epic guest, man. So thanks so much for finding the time.
Thank you for having me. I was courted during that dinner to show up here. He paid for dinner in exchange for me for showing up. So let's see if I can repay the favor.
Is always like to pay for dinner when you get someone as special as Jay to go out, and he showed us around Korea and a little bit of the nice part of where to eat and where to go out, and I had never been there, so it was awesome to do that. And then he's just got such an awesome story. Like, he's just such a fascinating background, but really what caught my attention was I did a crypto talk with Jay on in Korea at the event, and then he also did another panel session on gaming and Web3 gaming specifically, and had some really great insights coming from a gaming background. Jay has that wealth of knowledge, outside of the Web3 space that really, I felt, cut through the noise in terms of investing in the Web3 gaming space, which we're going to talk about today. But, mate, going right back, you started making out movies, and you've worked for the likes of Netflix, man. Tell us what that was like. What were you doing? Any movies that we'd know? What's it like?
Dude, if you keep gassing me up, I'm the only way I can go is down for the rest of the podcast. So look, I'm from Spain. I went to uni around in Europe. And then I moved to the States. I did my master's there, and I make movies all my life. My life was always telling stories. The format that I first wanted to tell stories was through making movies. I made movies for Netflix. I made movies for MGM. And I did an array of things, from bringing coffee to really cool people to start making my own movies as a cinematographer and then producer. I wrote and I directed. And I always liked just the collaborative art and just telling stories. And at one point in my life, even though movies were actually going well for me, my second life was always video games. I was always a hardcore Dota player, and I got a chance to do a documentary about esports. Think about it like Drive to Survive for Formula One, but the same thing back for Dota. It was called Life of a Genius. And then I got to live with the players, and I got to nerd out with them, and I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome. During this time, there was going to be a joint venture team that I was being open with, like Lionsgate, the studio, and the Lakers, and the Milken Foundation, and Meg Wickman, the ex-CEO of HP and Quibi. And they wanted somebody to help a young CEO that they had with the team, and I thought it was a really cool opportunity. And I was there for 1 year. And it was like a very formatted, they were coming with a franchise format for some of the video games like Overwatch League and all that. But after doing that for a year, I was like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'd rather just be the guy that owns the team and that runs the team and does it like that. Because the board was like, imagine everybody wanted something different. And that's when I became I did a movie there in the middle, which ended up being the most successful movie in Romania. So
what was the movie?
I'm famous in Romania. It's called Miami Beachy. And I just partnered with very talented people from there. And the movie was being filmed in Miami. So I produced the film with them. So anyhow, I went to OG, and when I joined OG, OG was like a super famous team, a super famous brand. But as a business, it was very very little. There was like four people working, only one team, and there was a lot of things to do. And yeah, I was with them for 3 years and a little bit. Awesome journey.
Yeah, what was it like, man, going into because esports has blown up, right? Like, over the last few years. Were you joining OG Esports when esports was just really coming up into the mainstream, or was this beforehand? Like, you mentioned before the show that you started with when you joined about 4 employees, and at the time that you left, it was 50. Like, that's pretty wild growth. How was that?
Okay, so in the macroeconomic aspect, there's a few things to always follow when you're trying to figure out, is this a business that will be thriving? Number one is there a public interest for this business? There's people. Is there attention? The answer, yes, there was. The second one, is there VC money coming in and pushing this forward? And the answer is, yeah, there was a lot of money coming in during those years, especially 18, 19. 18, 19 was the where people were having incredibly high valuations. They were like 20x on revenues. So they were considering this was an appreciating business, like like a traditional sport team. So they were like, hey, it's not really about your profit and loss. It's more about, sorry, like your revenues and cost. It's more like, hey, how much money can you make? How much market segment can you take? So there was a lot of appetite for investors. And OG was a team that never actually fundraised, and they never did all the way through. And when I joined, the market conditions were not there because COVID was starting. So there was a lot of people very worried. Everybody's in your house, and we had to face a few things. Number one was, well, the economy. Suddenly, people didn't know where to spend. They didn't want to spend money because everybody was scared, but everybody was at home, which means that consumption of content went through the roof because nobody could make content. So NFL is locked. NBA wasn't playing. La Liga, Premier League wasn't playing. There was no real new movies coming out. So esports provided an alternative to live content and daily content, because we started doing podcasts and we started doing these things online. Boom, it went through the roof. So that was really good. And we got a lot of speed there during the first year, even though it was a little bit rough. But by the time things started opening up, boom, that's when the escape velocity came. Because then we had the audience, we 4x or 5x the consumption average of content, of esports content, and then we have nowhere else to put the money, which means esports. So now the advertisers, the sponsors that we had for the team, they're like 2 or 3x the amounts that they were giving before.
Now, so it sounds like crypto, how just like you get, the VCs, you get the audience, and then you get that mass like consumption of content, and everything sort of, explodes. Like, give us like, I'm not a gamer personally. Like, what's like, talk us through like the site. Like, what are we talking in? Like, how big? You said you were running a podcast, back in OG Esports with, a couple 100,000 downloads. Like, that's nuts. Like, how big is the audience that someone tunes in for a game, or like just even following OG Sports?
Okay. So I'll give you like the cool sound bites, that everybody wants to hear. The gaming industry is bigger than the movie industry, book industry, music industry together. So the gaming industry is a massive, massive industry. Now, esports is a small part of it, but gaming itself is a huge part of it. So how big is a Dota tournament? Well, or the League of Legends tournament, there are some of the biggest events of the year. That includes like NBA finals and World Cup finals and all that. Some of the esports tournaments are rivaling in viewership with those things. In Dota, we have a tournament called the International that Valve runs for the game, and 75% of the money is crowdfunded. Sorry, I think most of the money is crowdfunded from something that you buy inside the game, and they only devote 25% of that money to the international, I think something like that. And the tournament prices are like $30 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
That's
think it was like
nuts.
$25 million and $27 million, and we won it twice.
So putting that into context, the WSOP, the largest poker tournament in the world, the prize pool for first was 10 million. So that's 3 times.
So
That
30 is for the whole prize pool. So if you win, you win half. So we won
15.
15.
That's
Yeah.
nuts.
Then we have to divide into different players and all that. But yeah, it was extremely lucrative. So at this point, think about it. We're playing in Shanghai in the O2 Stadium, like on the sorry, Mercedes-Benz Arena, I think it's called. But anyway, like big stadiums around the world. We played in Europe around football stadiums, and in China, the League of Legends Worlds was a huge Olympic stadium. So there's a lot of huge stadiums, huge people that watch it online on Twitch. You have like a million views for the CS:GO major. So yeah, there is a huge thriving community.
I'm so happy to hear this. Like, I remember playing StarCraft with my mates on dial-up in the 90s. And then I think 2001, I got broadband and started downloading these like videos of StarCraft tournaments off like
Hmm.
LimeWire or something like that. And then eventually, like in the years, they streamed them like pre-YouTube. And seeing these Korean guys, the level that they played at and that they were actually paid to do this. And then just from then, 20 years on, how crazy it is now. And you can be paid so much money, like you're actually a top athlete. It's absolutely incredible.
Much, yeah, I would say much more than a top athlete in most sports. Like I made the joke that if like yeah, if you're not maybe on basketball, baseball, and football in America, you make more money as an esport player.
And what are the ages of the players, Jake? Because one of my good mates is a gamer, and he just says like, you know, he's mid-20s, and he's like old now. He reckons in gaming. Like, is that right? Like, what are the ages of these gamers?
So at the beginning, there was this theory, which is obviously a very good theory, that is like the reaction time slows down as you grow old. But we have seen a trend where there are players right now that are able to overcome maybe that loss of reaction time through experience and through mechanics. So when 10 years ago, like yeah, 24, you were old. Now you have players sometimes playing until 30, so 31, 32, 33. Depends on the game and mechanically how you need to perform.
Mm-hmm.
But look, your audience, you think is mostly Australian? Because we have the most famous Australian guy. Anna was a guy that was in our team, and he started playing when he was 16. He won the biggest tournament by 17. And so he's been playing all his life. And by the time he was like 21, 22, 23, it was like, I think it's time to retire.
That's nuts.
That's it.
So
You have people retiring at 23 from professional gaming.
Bergs, we're in Korea, and I sent Harry a message because Harry's a massive gaming sports gamer, right? And I was with Jay, you know, the ex CEO of OG Esports, and Harry's like, "Oh my god, can you get me a meeting with Anna? I want to meet, want to meet this person." It's like he's my hero, and I'm like, wow, like
Yeah. Harry plays Dota, doesn't he?
yeah,
He's on that the whole, yeah. So just speaking about these guys.
Most of my messages still to this day, even though Anna retired 3 years ago, is like, hey, where is Anna? Where is Anna? I get that like maybe 4 or 5 times a week. Hey, where is Anna? Is Anna coming back?
Wow, that's so cool. And just speaking about the ages of people, you're saying that, you know, you kind of, you had your podcast, you got to live with these gamers. What were their lives like? Were they like athletes and training? What did they do like back then? And has it evolved since then?
I am going to tell you a story and then answer your question, because it's very interesting knowing what they do. But what's the first time that you get a call from somebody saying, hey, do you want to be a professional player? Because some of these kids that we get are 15, 16. So they're just playing the game at home and just playing on their own time and on their own computer and all that. And suddenly they get a message from me, said, hey, would you like to join OG? First, it's like, well, they have to figure out if I'm real or not. But then I have to go to talk to their parents.
Yeah.
And to explain to them that this is real, that there's real money coming in, and that we have a real organization. Obviously, they don't believe me. They think I'm going to steal their sons or whatever they think.
I'm not some creeper on the internet. Yeah.
So I have a story. I will not say names, but in that year, my famous roster, most of the guys retired after COVID, because COVID was a very long season. We didn't have events. So most of them decided to retire, and I have to build a new roster. And there was 2 players that were 15, 16 in that year. One of them was VCM, and the other one was Amar. Obviously, I had to talk to their parents for the first time, and they just couldn't believe it. So I have the kid, the brother that understands a little bit more about the world. So it's like one of them understands 10%, and the other one understands 20%. And now I'm trying to talk to the parents. And the parents are like, no way. I'm like, no, dude, we really make money. This is, you can see publicly, we've made $30 million playing video games. Yes, this is a real opportunity for your son. And I think that they don't really get it until they get the first few checks. And they're like, oh shit, now he makes more money than all the family together. So now it's it's exactly the same that professional athletes, which is now their families around them trying to help them most of the times. Look, in countries like Sweden, it's very normal, and you can hear stories all the time about professional players and all that. But in countries like Jordan, like old Bulgaria or things like that, it's like, okay, well, this is not that common. So I had to bring their brother. The brother was living with us to get them used to this thing. So yeah, it's fascinating. But to answer your question is, how do they live? Well, they play a lot. We have plays times where they play together as a team, and we scrims against other players, against other teams, and we prepare specific things and strategies that we want to let's say to research. And then they have time that they play alone. We encourage them to play sports. We have normally facilities or places where we can all live. We have a house in Lisbon where we have like the gym outside, the pool. We have a volleyball court. We have a chef that makes food for them. When I'm there, it's a little bit more strict. The moment that I leave, they go back to maybe eating more chicken that I would like them to eat. And yeah, they have a psychologist. We do a lot of psychological work. And the whole idea of the psychology is that it's more like team dynamics, but also like your own sessions. So the professionalism of esports has become much, much more important because we're playing for more and more money and we have more and more competition. So look, if I think that I have an edge to make $15 million, then how much I'm willing to invest, Well, maybe 14.9, and the rest I claim it as a lot. But no, yeah, it's become very, very professional.
This is amazing. Everything you've said translates not only to other athletes, but to people that are growing businesses as well. Like even Ben, when he goes to Bali, he's got everything set up. He's got his pool, his gym, his chef, everything's there and he can just execute on his business. And then you speak about team dynamics and you have your own psychologist for your performance, but then, the team dynamics and creating a high performing team. And with a bunch of seemingly young people, is it quite difficult to get them to perform together as a team? Because a lot of these are team games.
So we came up with our own magic sauce, which is sometimes it's better to get players when they're very, very young because we can already indoctrinate them into the way that OG Esports wants to play and wants to communicate. While if you've been in many different teams, you might not get the same level of buy-in.
Yeah.
So we've been more successful every time we get younger players. Now with older players, there's a little bit of everything, People are willing to learn. Some others were like, well, I've achieved some level of success on my own on other teams playing differently. And then they want to push into some of those narratives. Some of them are good, but some of them are like, yeah, this doesn't work for us. We want something different. It's actually, but again, the same thing in business. I always say, so I used to take a lot of coaching as the CEO to learn how to speak better, to learn how to be more precise, to learn how to be more acceptance of some things. But there's one thing that I always found out that is like, yes, as much as I am improving, I am limited by my own ability to improve. So I actually have to hire people that can vibe with me and go the same way that I want to go. Otherwise, it shows my weaknesses instead of just helping my weaknesses. So I have to find people that are like-minded at least 90%. Like, hey, are we on the same vibe?
This is the exact same thing Ben said to me about a year ago that he discovered, where it's, you are limited by, how much you can improve. But if you can improve your team, like spending an hour with your team and coaching them will be the equivalent of like 20 hours or whatever of performance. So finding those people that align with you and execute for you is just super important. It's something that you've focused on quite a bit, Ben.
Yeah, 100%. Especially like as you're scaling and you have in a people-oriented business like yours, Jay, like you need the best performance. Otherwise, you're not gonna make the money. You need those coaches and the advisors and the performance and everything counts, right? That hour that someone's got to spend time figuring out grocery shopping and cooking for themselves is an hour they could be spending working on their craft or what they're good at.
Absolutely. And when you were a CEO and you had all of those coaches kind of looking back and all the training that you had, which are the ones that you look back on and be like, that training was amazing and I really leveled up, or that specific type of coaching that really helped you out?
So there was if you guys know Tom Brady was the quarterback, legendary quarterback. It was a very interesting conversation because he will have a session with one person. I was like, oh my God, like I level up. And the person that was behind him is like, dude, it's just 1%. But it's just this, it feels like a lot because now you find something, a word that maybe you never said before, but it's only like small increments. I think that for me, there was, let's say, different aspects that I needed to improve. Number one was communication, because I realized that every employee that I had was really trying their best to do exactly exactly when they understood that I told them. So they were not really just not trying to do what I told them. So when they were failing, it's because my instructions were not specific enough, or my setting objectives was not specific enough. Because I'm actually very open about how they go about things. I just want them to hit these objectives. But for me, the key became that I couldn't really like rule with a reign of fear, because people were so scared of fucking up that they were not able to deliver the best version of themselves. So I actually spent a lot of time going the other way around. Hey, how can I help you? We have already decided the objectives together. Everybody knows what they have to do. So I will spend my day pinging people. It's like, hey, how can I help you? What's blocking you? How can I just blow through the blockage by myself? Because normally when I get there, all these clients not picking up the phone. Okay, give me a minute. Here you go. Get on the fucking phone. So I spend most of my time just pinging people to figure out what is the main objective and what is stopping them. So that was communication and then enabling them. The other part was my secret. Again, another few secrets is that you have to be very level-minded when you're the CEO, and we're not perfect people. So the moment that you feel that you're getting triggered, find a way to completely either change the topic or like, oh shit, this is the time I actually have to go to another meeting. Fuck, sorry guys, let's pick it up this later tomorrow. Like when you see that the whole wave is against you and the whole tide is moving against you, and you feel that everybody's going to start arguing with each other, just find a way out. And it doesn't mean that you have to run every single time you have conflicts, but it's okay sometimes just to take a little bit, and then come back 20 minutes later or a day later. And the next thing was actually from the team itself, from the competitive team. I got a lot of I would say the buying into the culture and buying into the way of doing things. And I became a little bit more colorful, because the first part I was like, maybe like, hey, look, I need to look the part, I need to be the part. And then I became a little bit more colorful, because I wanted them to feel that I was always pushing energy and always happy to be here. And whatever your CEO is, the company becomes. If your CEO is a bitter old guy, then your company is going to be bitter. If your CEO is energetic and friendly, then everybody's friendlier with each other. And they really are like constantly like being inspired by the CEO and the leadership. And I didn't realize this until probably a few months into it, because some of these guys are their first jobs. They love OG so much that they just want to be part of this. So I needed to help them understand how they could help OG.
So much wisdom just there in those few sentences that you said about, leadership. And you're right. It's to, set the tone and direction and enable your people, communicate effectively with them and motivate them as well. Align them with the goals, and you'll have an amazing high performing team. That was amazing just off the top of your head, man. I'm going to go back and watch that. That was great.
Then I'll give you the last secret. The last secret is use Notions, because there were so many pools or silos of information, and I wanted everybody to share the information so everybody could have it. Because I am a big believer that most smart people that understand the objectives will make the same decisions. We're giving the same information. So if people are making wrong decisions because they have wrong information or they don't understand the objectives, So how can you get information? Well, if everybody's sharing precise and concise information, there's a higher chance that everybody will make right decisions on their own without me having to police anything.
Mm. It's lead and scale 101. It was great insight. And I agree. I think that leadership by example is like something that I think that we try in our business as well, is like, you know, rather than just telling people what to do and how to act, just act that and do what you want others to do and they'll follow, you know, and build that culture. It's like even like at a very minor level, you go into a restaurant, right? And, you know, and something you walk away and go, fuck, that was really good customer experience. I really enjoyed that. Most likely the boss is a really great person. They're inspiring the rest of their employees to you know, present that same way. Versus a place where you just go, that was just like everyone's up, you know, everyone's shitty, everyone's sad, no one wants to be there. It's probably because the boss is a dick.
Ben, we know a guy that owns an IT business, and that's actually what he does. So a lot of their IT business is service. And if he sees something he doesn't like, you know, he'll train them, he'll talk to them. He's like, okay, you're coming out to lunch with me. And he'll take them to a specific cafe and he'll make them watch how they actually do service and how they greet people, how you feel. And as you're right, that modeling is just so important in a business, man.
I like letting people be themselves as well,
Mm.
because in a way, I mean, I read a lot of like leadership books, even from like Creative Inc., the one about Pixar, about how to build these like thriving creative communities. But I want people to be themselves. So, for example, the players, I have a story. I don't know how public it is. I think we told the story before, so then I'm okay. It's like the days of the finals. We're playing for $15 million and all that, and one of the players doesn't want to warm up. And in that moment, I just want to, like, you just want to pick him from the neck and say, "Joe, sit on the desk and warm up." But you have to really understand that not everybody's brain works the same way, and there is something that he didn't want to experience by warming up, that he was not able to explain in that moment eloquently. He did explain that later, but he was like, "Look, if I do this right now and I have a bad matchup and then I get tilted in the game, I'm going into the finals tilted." It's like, dude, I know how to play the game. I need maybe a second of just relaxing and not thinking about the game and then go there and do that. So it's like, you have to understand that everybody has different tempos and different ways to think about this. So hear them out. What do you need to be successful? They will tell you. Every day I have to wake up early. Okay, well, we'll try to vibe with you early. Or every day I actually like walking my dog at noon and it's important for me. It's like, give me the day. Okay, fine. We'll make the, like, you can make a lot of, let's say, concessions
Mm.
for people to perform really well. Now, we have to have a core idea. It's like, okay, but from 12 to 4, everybody's here doing their best. And I always had a culture where, like, I don't need people to stay here on the computer all day pretending to work. Dude, the
Yeah.
moment that you do your work, then go away, because otherwise you're distracting everybody. You know, and to stop pinning. No, no, no. This is not the chit chat. I really want you to go home and go away, because there will be days that I need you to maybe put extra hours. It's not going to happen very often, but it could happen. So I don't want people to work at 100% capacity. That is a big mistake. I
Yes.
want people to work at 75% capacity. There will be moments of burst, and then we can work at 100, and there will be moments of chill. But if you're constantly at 100%, it's like, well, first, I don't have more output. I don't, something new comes, a new idea comes, a new initiative comes, something happens, and we cannot face it because we don't have more output anymore.
Absolutely. I love that. First of all, it's performance over presenteeism. I love that. And then also always working at burst. So Ben is a guy that always wants to work at burst. And I'm the reasonable guy that has to tell him, what have you got on your plate? Right. Throw all of that in the bin. This is the number one thing you need to achieve. Just focus on that thing. Because if you're going into that thing and you're feeling exhausted, you're going to deliver that content or whatever you're doing in an exhausted way. You're not going to be at your best. And that's the thing that earns us the most money. And just getting to know your employees in your team on an individual level, their likes and dislikes, and how you can modify, you know, their days and make concessions for them instead of having overall conformity is very important. It's a very advanced technique that a lot of managers and leaders don't actually get to.
If you work with burst, the problem then is that a lot of people end up, there's specific things that you need in your life. You know, you need a circle of support that is your friends, your family, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. You need that. You need like social validation. You need things like that. So if you're only working, then that means that you need to get all these things from work. But work is not really designed to be those things for you. Work is just, I'm giving you money for your time. You're trading your money for your time. But the moment that you need work to be something else, it becomes very complicated, because people are like, dude, I'm giving you my life. How can you not give me that? I'm like, man, I don't have to. And this is not designed to do that. So I need you to have your own life, to do whatever you want to do, where you find all those things. And then it's your job to be the best version of you when you show up to work. Then if you are the best version of you, then I will use this version of you, and I hopefully give you the validation and the fulfillment that you need on this side of life. But
That's
not everything.
That's so right. It's just one aspect of life. They need to go away, find those other things. Like employers aren't responsible for, someone's happiness or their social hierarchy or how they feel in a lot of areas. Like the individual is responsible for those things. And, at the end of the day, you're right. It is a workplace. You come here, you work. It's, it's a transactional relationship, but it can be a nice environment. We're all aligned.
Sure.
We are a team.
Absolutely.
And and this is the thing, like a lot of people say, oh, we're a family here. It's like, no, you're not a family. You're a workplace. That means something. Because you spend a lot of time here doesn't mean work needs to fulfill all those other areas that you mentioned. It's such a key thing.
For me, I would say we're not a family, we're a team. We're teammates.
100%.
We're teammates. We're in the team together and we have a common goal. But also it's like, if you're always working, how do you enjoy what money buys you and what life buys you and what success buys you? Like, you gotta go out and understand, this is what I'm working for. I'm working because I can take my mom to Japan for a week, like I just did. Like, these are like real tangible things. If I'm always working, it's funny, like the most intense moments of my life, or maybe I made the most money, is been times of complete isolation and not having any fun or not doing anything. And now I was like, hey, well, I'm gonna do this, but I'm also taking my mom every year for a week somewhere. You need to really crystallize in your mind, this is what my success is relating to or correlating to.
Exactly. Like this is the thing, like the individual needs to take responsibility for that. What do you want in your life? And you're so right. When you work too much, I used to work in an organization that had the culture of just always working 24/7. It was crazy. And then you'd see all these blow ups at work, people getting really upset, or they were passed over for a promotion. It went to someone else. Like, I gave my life to this business. And that's just the symptom of a business that isn't healthy and isn't actually doing the right things for their employees.
I actually have another interesting way of thinking, but if you guys want to talk about crypto, you can cut me off at any point. There's these ideas that you have businesses, and when you do for your employees, that you provide services on top of the business, like, hey, we're gonna do a movie nights, or we are gonna go on these things together, or we're just gonna do that. And I always very hesitant to do this, because I have to be also conscious with, do people have families? People have other things that they want to do outside. And if I am asking them now to spend more time at work, then they have less time with their significant others. And I want them to spend more time with their significant others. And unfortunately, if everybody goes to the event and you don't go, you're left out. Most of
Yes.
the times that you're promoted, most of the bonds or like friendship that you build, you have to build them. And if you're not there, you're always the one that is not there. So you kind of have to go. Every single time we say it's optional, it's not really optional. You gotta have to go. So I would rather not do many of those things. And if I do, then I'm not part of it. I don't go.
Yeah.
Because the moment that the boss go, then it's not is not optional. Is everybody has to be there. So I will not go on purpose. I'll be like, hey, I'm not going. Even things that I really want to go, I don't go.
And some things like people don't consider is actually, it may be an employee's worst nightmare to actually go and hang out with their team in a social situation outside of work, right? Where it's like some people are just like, they don't like that kind of social interaction or that pressure or that situation they're in or the place that they're actually, going to. And you're right, like being a boss, that changes the whole dynamic as well of that team being out. It's very different.
There's no winning.
Yeah,
if I
that's
invite
it.
people to my house and I want to cook for them, there's no winning. Because if I come to a house and my house is shit, they're gonna be like, dude, this guy with all the money he has and look at how he lives, he's so greedy. If they come into a very luxurious house, yeah, look at that. I knew he was loaded, you know? So no matter what I do, it's like I am not winning. So it's
It's a
like, no,
dichotomy of
guys,
leadership, mate.
Lose-lose.
You can't win.
you choose a restaurant, you go, I'll pay for it, have fun. You know, that's it.
Mate, this is cracking so far. I've loved all that about like your wisdom about being a CEO and a leader. Like that stuff is so important. And you only really learn that through talking to someone with experience.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I actually pull back in one moment because yeah, the Wintermute does a lot of these things. They have like ping pong tables, they organize role playing games, and they organize like an offsite that they're gonna go all together on holidays. And it's a very very nice thing to do and for the company, and they really bond together. But in Wintermute, if you work in Wintermute, you don't have a life.
Yeah, right.
You're because there's so much to do every day. And
Yeah.
is that a little bit of the trader mentality? And if you think about trader, private equity, and all that, they really romanticize their rah-rah of every day. And even like football coaches in the NFL, the whole idea is like, dude, what time you show up? Well, I show up at 4 a.m. Like, for what? So they all want to be there, and they're all like that you have to be there, and it's like you're in the trenches the whole time. And many of them will sleep sometimes in the office. In one of the teams that I was working so many hours that I slept in the office many times. I brought a futon so I could sleep in the office. I feel like a clown now thinking about those times. It's like, no, dude,
Yeah.
just fucking go home. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly right. And like once you've kind of, seen the other side and usually what that leads to, especially for me and a lot of other people, is just burnout because you're constantly at work, you're constantly doing work activities, you've got home pressures and you get sick and you burn out and you're just setting a terrible example for everyone else. So when I spoke about the other business, I used to work in a large tertiary hospital here and sat with
Uh-huh.
all the surgeons and everyone else, and they were just fucking nuts. And I was the guy that was helping them build all of the technology. And it was just always go, 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 do research, do more surgery, more care, more people. And it was just emails, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 5 a.m. It's like fucking hell. And if you're not responding, you're the person that doesn't respond. And it was fucking nuts. Everyone just goes through that burnout cycle. Work is their life. They get cranky at work. They want all the social stuff from work and little normal work things that mean nothing would blow up because they're not doing those things in their normal lives. They're bringing that to work. And it was, yeah, terrible, terrible environment.
This can go back. What I think is in a way like life as a CEO in many ways is like a resource game, like a video game. This is my segue, Ben. I'm helping you, okay? It's like you have a specific amount of resources and you have to achieve a specific amount of objectives. One of the resources is me, my capacity to learn, my capacity to guide, and my capacity to read the market. Until I onboard people who are better than me on things, right now what I'm trying to do is enhance my ability. So I'm going to hire people who have the ability to enhance what I do or to take those things that are maybe very time consuming for me, but they don't really mean that much to the business. So for example, finance is one of the things that immediately I always push to the side because it's super important, but it doesn't really generate business. The moment that I start hiring other high performers who have specific abilities, then my job becomes more about manage them and then try to figure out how to put them in the best places for situations for them to win. But I really don't want to be working 15 hours a day because I actually need a lot of time to think and to make decisions. And for decisions, I need to be able to just think. So during OG, there was many days that I would be like, I need 4 hours to go to the beach and just think. I am thinking about work. I'm not thinking about the Kardashians. I'm clearly thinking about work, but I'm going to have to make decisions that are important for the company. And I need to think about it in a 3-dimensional way. And if I guide or if I make the wrong call, I'm going to take the company into a rabbit hole that is going to maybe take me 3 months to pivot out. It's okay. I'm going to make them many times, but if I make better decisions than bad decisions, then the company will be better. Your employees get very frustrated when they have to pivot, when they work really hard in one direction and they have to backpedal and then go somewhere else. They understand it when you can explain, hey, this is my read. And I normally have something called the red team. I tell them, hey, this is my read. break it. And then for like 20 minutes, they all try to break my read and say why I'm stupid. And then after that, I said, okay, let me think about it. And then I think about it, all the arguments that they have, and then I come back and I said, okay, I still want to do it. I've contemplated the arguments that you have. This is my solution in case this happens, but we're still going to go with it. Or, hey, I have modified the plan based on what you guys told me, and I think that this should be the revised plan. But yeah, like I need that time. So as a CEO, there's many people that live in the trenches. I don't want to live in the trenches. I need time alone, a lot of time.
That's very important because think about it. If you're always in the trenches, you're always reactive, you're working 15 hours a day, how are you going to feel and what kind of decisions are you going to make? Whereas if you go somewhere else, you're by yourself, you go to a hotel, you go to the beach, you relax, you let everything kind of ideate, you think of the bigger picture and you bring that back. The decision making you're going to make is going to be so much better than that tight, reactive, oh, just go and do this. And as a CEO and as a leader, you're driving the bus. So you need to know where you're going, at which speed, and in which seat every person is in. And I encourage every leader, Trav tells us this all the time, Ben, to literally take time out from the business during your day, however many hours, and just focus on the big picture.
Yeah, super important. And yeah, especially as a CEO, because who else is going to make the decisions if you don't? And then what are the repercussions of that? Now, I want to talk about Web3.
Crypto. Let's go.
Yeah, let's talk about crypto. So the rise of esports and, the content and the entertainment value, Jay, like just even streaming and Twitch and, Kick and all these streaming platforms, there's a lot more gamers. It's obviously a huge industry, right? And there's a lot more stuff coming out. Then, we had the rise of Web3, Web3 gaming. And, back in the crypto summer of 2021, 2020, we had a huge amount of VC capital pouring into Web3 games, right? We had, massive things, focusing on Avalanche, Illuvium, IMX. We just had so much, Immutable X, we had so much capital flowing into that space, and there's still a lot of games being created. Where do you think this space is going? Do you think it is just a money grab? Do you think there is actually product market fit with Web3 games? And I know your answers already because I heard you speak about this, but I loved your take and it's so credible considering your background. I want you to just share your insights on that whole space.
Okay. This is the real reason why he invited me, because I have a few radical views. All right. First, I'm going to tell you the problem. And after we talk about the problem, I'll tell you my proposed solutions. Okay? So the problem that I see is that there are not such a thing as Web3 gamers. They're gamers. And gamers is mostly it's a relationship where, hey, I have free time and I want to spend my free time enjoying my free time. And then you think about it just as I can do anything. I can just watch NBA, I can watch Netflix, I can go to the park, I can go surf. I can do anything that I want with my time or the possibilities available to you, or I can game. Okay, so most people want to play games because they want to evade reality. They want to just to disconnect for a little bit. They want to feel some kind of adrenaline, dopamine, or things like that. And they want to build communities or make friends that are like-minded like them, and they share these specific points of passion. Okay, there's another level there. It's a little bit more on the side, but there is something very attractive about creating a level of progress inside a game that you don't have in your life, because you don't level up every 3 hours. So there is something really cool about finding progression in a game. Okay, so mostly the relationship that you have is that I have money that I'm willing to give you in exchange of hours of entertainment. Okay, so we started doing the math. Well, I can go to the cinema for $20, that is like 2 hours, or I can buy this game and I want to put 100 hours. Actually, it really comes down to $1 per hour, so pretty good. I think everybody has done this math when we play a game like that. So in that model, you need the game to be the best game you can, because that's your arbitrage. I give you money, you give me the game. Then there's a secondary kind of model that came out later, which is called free to play, which is I give you a free game, but I'm going to give you options that are so interesting that you will hopefully opt into this and give me money. And this has been very lucrative. But in a way, you're getting deliver an incredibly good game most of the times, and that's why I give you my time and then further promise of money or I owe you. Okay, but I have to be very honest. The games in Web3 gaming are not fun to play to the level that they can compete with the normal games. So then the whole thing just changes because people are here for potential financial incentives. That's it. That's why they're here. Nobody's here because this game kicks ass and is really fun. Okay, so I understand there is a financial incentive to play this game. I'm going to play this game to earn. That's great, but that's not gaming. That's working. And that's why I have separated categories in my mind. One of them is I spend hours in exchange for money, which is why I have a job. And the other one is I give you my money in exchange of entertainment. So with that distinction, there are a lot of people on the normal traditional gaming that big companies that are not able to make games that stick. Just like movies, movies and games, there are very, very few that get the whole audience and everybody else just tanks and loses a lot of money. And these companies have the best developers, the best stories, the best IPs, and still no one cares. So they're trying to solve just for that. And this other group of people are not even trying to solve for that. So the chances of figuring out are zero on the current paradigm. So if you consider that gamers are just gamers and you consider that they're just going to go where the best game is, then, well, crypto right now is not equipped to compete against that because it will require massive, massive investment. It requires 3, 4, 5, 6 year cycles in order to get a game going. And most of the crypto VCs, they have vehicles that are much shorter in time because nobody is really investing on equity. Mostly it's like liquid tokens vehicles. So a normal VC in traditional Web2 businesses could be 10 years, 20 years. But here they're like 3 years vehicle, 3+1s. So we're never going to get there. So that's the pessimistic part. There's an optimistic part. But Ben, do you have any questions on this before?
I tend to agree, and I think the Web3 games are probably more focusing on the economics of how to make money, and the people playing those games are those that are looking to make money, right? Then they're not attracting necessarily, gamers. One of my best mates is a gamer, and he's not playing Illuvium, for example. Like that's just not a thing. So I agree, but what's so interesting is that the amount of money that VCs have backed into this, because they're supposedly the ones that should know what they're doing, right? But to your point, in a way, the VCs are probably just investing in this space because they know retail investors are probably going to get interested by this idea, and there's just a way for them to rotate and get returns on their VC capital, not actually build too much sustaining long-term games.
So I'm a big believer in operating in reality. And reality, we have this beautiful thing that is called language, in which I use words that represent specific realities. Then rebrand it. Don't call it games. Call it something else. And I'll be totally on board with it. Just call it use the app to earn, instead of play to earn. It's not playing. You're not playing, Because if you rebrand it, then there is nothing in my head that immediately responds to you against it. I know what an apple is. You give me an apple and I bite it, and it's a delicious peach. Well, that's not an apple. It's a peach. So I'm sure this peach is amazing, but call it a peach, and then we will have no problem doing this. Web3 gaming right now is not a place for people to play these fun games that can compete with traditional gaming. It's a places where people come to farm financial incentives, which is token airdrops and all that, which is why the liquidity keeps moving around and all that.
That's exactly right. And just what you said previously about traditional gaming. So I play a lot of Apex Legends, and even when because all those like first-person shooter titles kind of compete. And if someone releases an update, or if Apex Legends does every 3 months, you just see the user base drop off by half. Like you see in the charts, or people get upset with certain things. That's just competition at a top level in gaming and they're losing, half of their users. And then you try and do something in crypto and then you try and smash those two together. Gaming's really hard, crypto's really hard, and you want to put those two together and have a successful experience. We're not there yet, and you're playing on a very difficult level. Like, I completely agree that it's not comparative with gaming, it's something else. And then you're right, at the moment it's like do stuff to earn, like farming.
Correct. So the key of gaming, the way I see it, requires very talented game makers, a lot of money, and a lot of time. Crypto gaming doesn't have either of these three things right now. So for me, the chances of them to figure out are nearly zero. Now, there is an optimistic part, okay? I said that there was an optimistic part of it. The optimistic part of it is that most of the best games in the world have come from derivatives of a game that was there before. So Dota was Warcraft 3, okay? Then CSGO, was Half-Life. So there is this user-generated content that people can do by themselves, which could be very lucrative in a decentralized way. So what I think that the Web3 gaming should be doing is infrastructure and these places where people can build games on top, because they will come up with a solution. We are in a way democratizing the game making, because, for example, and I have a specific example, I used to run raids on World of Warcraft. My job was to organize the raid. We got paid to do it. We were sponsored, and I contribute very highly on creating content for the game. And when Blizzard sold to Activision, I never got a check, even though I provided hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of hours, and Blizzard a lot of money. So if we have now a way to decentralize all this way of making the games, and we create the infrastructure and the engines for people to build games, and then for people to contribute into the success of the games, then Web3 is much better equipped than the traditional one. So now we're actually using the technology that we have to solve a problem that is real, instead of using the technology that we have to solve a problem that nobody asked anybody to solve.
Which is crypto in a nutshell, right? Just a bunch of solutions for not many problems.
Well, that's it. And if you got like, the platforms to actually use, again, like Apex Legends came from the Source engine. I love that kind of thing where you could build something like that. And if you have the right tooling, I think the kind of decentralized open aspect of crypto where people can actually build on that is a perfect kind of idea. And, have you seen that? Well, we've seen reports of a lot of investment in Web3 by quite large gaming companies. Would you have any idea of how that's kind of going for them? Are they still investing and trying in those areas?
So this one I will be careful. I'm going to answer it, but I will be careful. So most of the times that I see companies coming into Web3, they come with this idea, which is, hey, there are users on Web3. I am going to create a proposition for them to join me because these users have money and I want to target these users. For me, this is a very, very, very flawed way of thinking, because people that are in Web3 that are gamers are already playing games. And people that are in Web3 that are not gamers, they don't going to care about your game. And even if they did care, which is the perfect Venn diagram, people that care and people that you want to target, there's hundreds of very low thousands. So it's not really a rich environment of possible targets. So there's just not a fit. So what they need to try to do is bridge their Web2 users into a Web3 environment that provides less friction or better solutions for them without them kind of knowing it.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to mix those businesses. So a lot of the Web2 studios that I have spoken to during the last year are not trying to bridge the users. They're actually creating a whole new studio with new investors that they will launch token and all that. They're both keeping those businesses separated because this crypto thing is more like, well, we know that it's money there. Let's figure out how can we extract it.
Yeah.
Instead of like, hey, I really think that my users will actually enjoy better a way to on ramp and off ramp or create a decentralized where next time they build their own game, it's already there on chain and everybody can play it, and the revenue share is easily uh, distributed. And the main players in the industry are not coming. They're really blocking most of these things. So Valve is one of the main players, but Valve has their own Steam ecosystem, and they have like one way on ramping. You can put money inside of Steam, but you cannot get money out of Steam. So even
Yeah.
if you make money inside, then you cannot get it out. So yeah, it's a little bit rough right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like the future of this is if traditional studios are going to do this, it needs to be completely abstracted. I hate, setting up a new wallet, doing crypto transactions, user experience is absolutely terrible. And even when I game, if I've got my PlayStation and let's say I buy a physical disc and I put it in and then I got like a 60 gig update, I'm like, fuck this. I just want to get to the game as soon as possible. I want it to be frictionless and I don't want to have to think. I want to spend my time and energy in that game rather than setting everything up.
Well, I will never be able to solve for the technical implications of just having to remotely update all that.
Yeah.
But think about it where you join a game, imagine like World of Warcraft, and the game is what it is. And you can just opt in to do, hey, would you like to connect a wallet? Well, why? Well, because there is a specific way that you can secure your character that is better secure than just being in our server. For there's a lot of people that get breaking into their accounts and steal their shit and things like that. Well, we put it on chain, then we have a way to know who has it, who took it away from you, because it's in a way it's a centralized market. It's a centralized exchange at that point, not a decentralized exchange, and I can see where everything goes, so I can revert back. Okay, now it's like you have specific items that you want to put in an auction house. Well, the auction house is better secured through blockchain technology than for what it is right now. Okay, would you like to move things from one server to server? Well, blockchain technology offers better solutions for that. Well, would you like to make sure that it's you and not somebody else? Well, right now, crypto allows a better level of security than just your password of 8 characters that you have for your normal World of Warcraft account when you put thousands of hours. So there are actually real things that we could do right now in the background that nobody will know that will just secure the game better.
And bringing this right back to an investment point of view, because I want to get into, Jay, I know your investment strategy, mate, and how I don't know how much you want to share, but I'd love for you to share what you can from an investment perspective. I think going back to like if you still want to exposure to gaming, my thoughts on this is that focus on the infrastructure level, like rather than trying to back the individual game, which as Jay's pointed out has a high likelihood of not succeeding. Back the blockchain. Go after blockchains that games may be built on. We'll get the the excitement of community, whether or not they pull it off. I think backing that infrastructure level will allow you to get exposure to various games, not one individual game. Whether that be Solana, whether that be Avalanche. Ronin is a favorite of mine, which I own. There's different blockchains that have a lot of games built on top that will eventually get the exposure, as the market goes up, regardless of the success of the game. Jay, what's your crypto strategy, mate? Generally, how do you look at the space? What are you most bullish on? Where do you think
So
it's
I
going?
would say that, look, the key here is first is not financial advice. I'm just going to give you some food for thought about to think one thing. Look, the ability to create hype and to create pump and to get something to go really fast is always going to be games, okay? Because it's much easier narrative to be like, hey, this game is pumping. I call them like single points of failure. So yes, as much as this game will be the easiest way to storytell and to go up, you are one single point of failure. If this game fails, then you have nothing. if you build on or believed on the ecosystem and infrastructure and the chain, you have to believe more in the long term. You gotta believe not in 3 month cycles or 6 month cycles. You have to believe in 3 year cycles, 5 year cycles. And the problem is that in crypto, a lot of things can happen in long cycles. So my strategy would be, well, you have to diversify some of these things and understand that the liquidity will really circulate and rotate through some of these things, and you gotta be able to catch it when you can. And if not, maybe don't participate on this. If you are a more traditional investor and you have more conservative views on the ecosystem, then buy Bitcoin, and then just chill, and eventually Bitcoin will go up to X, 3X, 4X, 5X. But if you are not willing to rotate liquidity, if you're not willing to be there all the time, understanding what is the new narrative, what is people talking about, when is the airdrop launching, when are you farming this airdrop, when is this thing going to launch or be listed in another exchange and all that, then you're not as sophisticated as you think you are. And you maybe should not do it. Take more traditional views on the industry, which is, hey, I believe in crypto. Hey, I believe that this is a world that I want to be part of, and that this is good for the world, that this should go up. And then take, the classic big ones, and just, that's it. Enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of investing, we always ask our guests like how they kind of think about investing and how they're kind of allocated. We don't talk numbers or anything like that. But you talk a lot about crypto. Have you invested in crypto? Do you own, real estate? Are you a stock guy? How does that kind of look like in your life? And how do you think about, investing for your future?
I don't own any real estate.
Yeah.
I believe that the biggest ROI that can have is investing on things that will give me more money. And I am trying to grow the bag every day and not try to pull away from the bag. I do want financial freedom. Financial freedom doesn't have to be a huge bag, but it means that part of it has to be liquid or easily accessible. And for me, real estate is not one of those things,
Yeah.
because it's not liquid. You can move. In the last years, I lived in many different countries, so real estate would not even make sense for me. But how do I think about this? Let me think about it. I have a segue that probably answers this. I like crypto because I believe that as a society, we just work, save money, and spend money. Those are the triangulations. So if I want to buy something better, I just have to either make more money or work more hours and save more money, or just get into debt to do it. And 100% of our time invested on work is invested on working, on physically working a job. I would like to come to a world where we spend 90% working and 10% of just trying to optimize financially how we do things, from tax setups to, is my money making me money, and investing and all that. And then hopefully get to a point where you actually spend 30% of your time not really physically working your job, but you spend 10% of optimizing finances and 20% investing and becoming, well, I have this expertise. How do I apply it? And then hopefully move to a world where we only work 50% of the time. Then we spend 20% of the time advising or consulting companies that are going to be doing things that I have already done. So why don't we just make the learning curve differently, instead of just having all to go to a vertical learning curve, and where we can all make money without having to just break our backs working all day. But it's very hard when you come from a normal environment, and this is what they teach you. This is what they teach me when they were a kid. So crypto, for the first time, gives me this ability to constantly talk about something more than football and the Kardashians and where are we going this weekend. For the first time, my friends and I are constantly talking about, dude, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Hey, have you seen this? Like, our chats are about that, not about other things. So we should not be ashamed of wanting to make money. And, even when I tell my mom, it's like, dude, I'm really doing this and this and this. My mom is like, well, it's not really about money. But that is such a blanket statement. It was not really about money, but money is a huge part of everything that we do daily. So it kind of is about money. It doesn't mean that I have to just optimize my life just to have as much money as possible. But yeah, it is about money, because most of my life I spent working. So Yeah, it's about money. So to answer you is, I like the game of making money. I have high tolerance for risk, for some risk, because I believe in my ability to make more money if everything goes down. Because I'm not a trader, I
Yeah.
am a builder. I know how to run companies. So if tomorrow my net worth went to zero, I believe that I will come back from it.
Excellent. And I like that transition as well, where you start where, man, it has been so painful to unlearn the bullshit that's been drummed into my head by school, even by uni, by my parents, by all my peer groups about you go to work, you make money, you spend it, that's it pretty much. To then go to an investment mindset, to take that risk, to even lose money and to have that capital at risk. And just what you said about 90% working, 10% focus on your investments. And over the years and decades, that percentage changes, right? Because your investments will grow. So you spend more time there, you get more income from it. But then having that extra money actually equates to more time. And when you were talking about consulting, like you work less, consult a bit more, and then have more free time. So that's, I think that should be the goal for everyone, to figure out what they actually want to do and use that framework and system to allow them to have more time to be able to do the things that they want instead of working 40 hours a week until they're 65. It's amazing.
Look, obviously, I we have to figure out a way for this to apply to most part of the population, because if it only applies to 10%, then it doesn't really work for everybody. But I do think that there are principles of passive income, investment, and things like that you can apply even with $100. When I was a kid, I couldn't really buy anything or buy anything because I never had money. So I was not really participating in any of these investments or accruing anything. But now I have my cousins that are like 23 years old, and they're like, oh, I'm buying this thing with my mates, and then I'm also investing on like coal mines. In like, huh? And like, yeah, I put together, like, we syndicated like $3,000 with my friends, and with $3,000 we can actually join this little fund. So now we're part of this, even though we're syndicating this. And I was like, dude, these kids are like 30 years ahead of me. How is this happening to them? So I love that. And crypto has allowed anybody to participate with any kind of fractional ownership that they want. Because before that was, you couldn't own half a car, you couldn't own half apartment, you couldn't own those things. I'm a big believer in RWAs, real world assets. We just haven't figured out fully how to do it in crypto. But the moment that happens, then that's going to be amazing.
I love it. Those are some really wise thoughts. I think, we resonate something similar. Collective Shift. Have a simple strategy. Invest in assets that you have conviction in. Hold for a long period of time. You look at the monthly chart or the yearly chart of crypto. It's 9 times out of 10, it's up, and it's 3 steps forward, 1 steps back, and you have a long term time horizon. It usually plays out pretty well. So, Jay, that's been amazing. Yeah,
I do have finally the solution. I told you I was going to give you the magic sauce of what to do to fix.
Oh, let's go.
I'm fixing right now Web3 gaming for you. Okay.
Please.
Number 1, rename it. Stop fucking calling Web3 gaming. Okay. If it's gaming, just call it gaming. And if it's not gaming, figure out and call it something else. But if it's gaming, it's just gaming. Not Web3 gaming, just gaming. Second, all the implementations that you want to have that include blockchain technology and all that, do it in the background. This is just technology. Why do we have to? Oh, now we discover like Oracle database, or we're just going to call it Oracle gaming. No, shut up. It's gaming. However you want to solve in the background is just for your problem. That's a tech solution, not a front solution. We just want to put it on the front. Let's be honest, because we believe that we can raise at a higher valuation and we can tokenize it. That's it. It's not solving for any needs. So rename it and then do everything you want to do on the background. Third, invest in communities and invest in user generated content. That means from people that build games, from people that make content about the games because they're passionate about it. All those contributors that you already have that the loyal fans. Enhance that. Help them. Nurture them. Because they are the ones that are going to keep your game alive and the ones that are going to continue making new games and new games and new games. And then be patient. Be patient. This is going to happen. but this is going to take a while. If you just call it gaming, do the tech pack in the background, and use your money to enhance those communities and those user-generated content and those contributors, and you have enough money to wait it out, it's going to happen. It's going to happen because the people who are going to build your games are going to come to your chain.
Amazing.
I love it. Get rid of Web3 gaming. I like it. This was
As a person doing a podcast on Web3 gaming.
No, I love it, man. Jay dropped that on the panel in
crossing
Korea.
Web3, just gaming, Welcome to gaming.
I love it, man. Jay, thank you so much for all those insights, man. I love the first half. I think we went a lot deeper in the CEO and building a company, and there was just some amazing insights. You're very wise with your words, and I love listening to you, man. It was very
Thank
insightful.
you, guys. It was a lovely conversation.
No, man, I appreciate it. Where can people, find your stuff, follow you online, anything that you want to send our audience to?
I don't really do much social media talking, but it's at JMR Luna in Twitter. And the reason actually why I don't say many things online sometimes, because I believe that I have proprietary knowledge. I'm not sure I want to give it for free. So I end up just putting memes or just liking photos of cats and football, or like, dude, Spain just won, let's go. But that's that. Normally, I don't really do much more.
No, that's awesome, man. Jay did have a brief appearance on my latest YouTube videos. If you ever check out my YouTube channel, the video.
Welcome to the channel. Yes.
Week in the life in Korea. Go check that out. Jay's there, and we eat some Korean barbecue together. What was that place called, Jay? That was like the pork.
It was like Eat Pork Party or something.
Yeah.
What was it?
Party often and eat. Live life and party and eat pork. Oh no, something like that.
Eat pork, party hard. I think it was something like that.
I can get behind
we have
that.
a photo somewhere.
Yeah, we got behind that. That was good, mate. Thank you so much again. JMR Luna, everyone. If you love this episode and you think there's someone else in your network that would find this valuable, we'd love for you to share it with them. It's how we grow the podcast. And we'll keep bringing on awesome guests like Jay, hopefully. So thank you so much again, mate. And we'll see you everyone on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, champions.